ever get that feeling? You look at the scale of environmental problems and it just feels huge, totally overwhelming sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And you start thinking, okay, seriously, what can I actually do? One person.
Right. That feeling of helplessness. It's common.
Yeah. But okay, let's unpack this because today's deep dive is really about that finding the surprising power in, well, individual actions. We've pulled together some really quite inspiring stories, practical tips too, that show how even small changes can add up.
Absolutely. And what's great about the sources we looked at is they're full of these very relatable, very human stories.
Mm-hmm.
Just everyday people making shifts.
Simple shifts.
Yeah, simple shifts in their lives and their communities. It's quite refreshing, actually. It focuses on tangible things that when you put them all together can make a real difference.
Exactly. And the point is, you don't need to be like a top scientist or have tons of spare cash to get involved. This isn't about adding more stress to your life.
Not at all.
It's more about finding simple, doable ideas, things you can weave into your day-to-day. So think of this as a way to quickly get informed on how you personally can help out the planet.
And our mission today really is to dig into these examples, to pull out those key bits, those nuggets that show the potential you have to make a difference right where you are.
Okay, so let's dive in. The first thing that really jumped out, I think, across these stories is just how much impact small individual actions can actually have.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about things that might seem tiny on their own, but when you zoom out, see the bigger picture, the results are pretty amazing.
That's definitely.
Like, take Daniel. He lived in a city, really bad air pollution, right? And he just decided, okay, I'm switching to my bicycle instead of driving.
Super choice.
Super simple. But think about it. Less pollution straight away, good for everyone's lungs. And Daniel's getting healthier himself. It's just a win-win, isn't it?
It is. And what's interesting there is how it lines up, personal benefit with environmental good. It sort of suggests that being sustainable isn't always about sacrifice.
Right.
Sometimes it's just making choices that improve your own life and happen to help the planet too.
Totally. And then you've got Maria. She was just, bothered by the litter in her local park.
We've all seen that.
Yeah, exactly. But instead of just grumbling, she actually got a few neighbors together. They started doing regular cleanups. Small group at first.
Just started small.
Yeah, but their consistent effort, week after week, it didn't just make the park nicer. It actually inspired other people to join in.
That ripple effect.
Like a snowball effect, yeah, of just positive action.
And that shows how one person's concern, like Maria's, can be a real catalyst, right, for the whole community. It wasn't some big official campaign.
Yeah.
Just neighbors helping out. And it grew because people saw it was working, felt inspired.
And who knew fixing a dripping tap could be like an environmental act?
Right.
Maria's husband, James, he just started fixing all the little leaks around their house. Seems tiny, doesn't it?
Seems tiny.
But think about all the water wasted from leaky taps across a whole city, a whole country. It adds up to a staggering amount. Water that plants, animals, well, we need.
And you have to think about the energy too. Treating water, pumping it around, it all uses energy. So even small leaks have this hidden energy footprint. James fixing those taps, that directly reduces demand, protects those systems.
Good point. Then there's Sarah. Always carries a reusable shopping bag. Such a simple habit.
So easy to do.
So easy. But it directly tackles that massive problem of single-use plastic bags, the ones that end up everywhere, harming wildlife, oceans.
Mm-hmm.
Tiny effort from her, big difference in waste reduction.
And what's key about Sarah's action is it's preventative, isn't it? She's stopping the waste before it happens.
At the source.
Exactly, which is often way more effective than cleaning up afterwards. Small act. Big ripple effect on plastic pollution.
And speaking of saving resources, remember the neighbor, the one who switched to energy-saving light bulbs.
Oh, yeah.
Again, seems minor. But two clear benefits. Lower electricity bills for them.
Always nice.
Definitely. And less energy needed from power plants, which often means less pollution. Just a smart move.
And that really shows how being eco-conscious can also be, smart financially. Those long-term savings from energy efficiency, they add up. Make sustainability good for the planet and your wallet.
Peter's school project, the tree planting one, that was really cool too.
Yeah, I like that one.
Each kid got their own tree to plant and look after. That sense of ownership, having to water it, watch it grow.
Makes it real for them.
Totally. It didn't just teach them about the environment. It gave them a real feel for what trees do. Clean air, oxygen, homes for animals. All that stuff.
And that hands-on learning is so powerful for building that sense of responsibility, isn't it? Yeah, wow. Like getting your hands dirty, caring for a living thing, it builds connection.
Definitely. And Emma's effort on food waste, so practical.
Very practical.
Just planning meals a bit better, using leftovers creatively. She cut down massively on food thrown away. And we often forget, right? Wasted food isn't just the food.
No, it's everything behind it.
It's all the water, the energy, the land, the transport, everything that went into growing it and getting it to your plate. Wasted.
Emma's approach really highlights those hidden costs in our food system. Being more mindful, wasting less, it directly reduces the strain on all those resources.
Yeah.
Lessens the impact.
And David with his reusable water bottle, another classic example, right? Small personal change, big impact potential.
Huge number of plastic bottles avoided.
Exactly. Just from that one habit. And it even spread. His neighbor, Lily, saw him, got inspired, started doing it too. That's how these things catch on.
It shows the power of just being a role model, doesn't it? Your everyday actions can be a quiet encouragement, inspire people around you without even trying sometimes.
And it's not just about what we use, but how much. Reiko decided to consciously buy fewer new clothes.
Ah, the fast fashion issue.
Yeah. And donate stuff she didn't wear anymore. When you really stop and think about the resources needed to make clothes, water, energy, materials, factories.
It's massive.
Just buying less is a really direct way to cut your footprint.
And Rachel's choice ties into that bigger idea of like sustainable consumption, moving towards a more circular approach,
Right. Repair, reuse.
Exactly. Thinking beyond just buy and toss, reusing, repairing, recycling clothes keeps those resources in play longer. Lessens the fashion industry's impact.
And finally, just going back to Daniel, our cyclist friend, he also made a point of repairing his old shoes, his bags.
Instead of throwing them out.
Yeah. Instead of just tossing them and buying new ones, it's that whole mindset, isn't it? Valuing what you have, choosing to mend, not discard. Good for the planet. Good for the bank balance, too.
That's exactly right. It's sort of a return to that older way of thinking.
Right.
Durability, repair. It pushes back against our throwaway culture. It's just a practical way to cut waste, save resources. Well, what's really striking about a lot of these small actions is how they tap into things we already do.
Like commuting, shopping.
Yeah, commuting, shopping, chores makes them easier to adopt, easier to stick with. It's less about huge, drastic changes and more about just conscious tweaks to your routine.
Okay, so we've seen all these great examples of what one person can do, but the sources also really drove home the power of community. When people actually come together.
Mm-hmm. That's when things really scale up.
It's when those individual efforts start to connect, multiply. That's when you see even bigger changes happening.
And what's fascinating is how these individual sparks can grow into these wider community movements. It amplifies the impact, builds this shared sense of responsibility, and notice how often it starts small.
Yeah, one person's idea.
One person's concern, one suggestion. It really shows the power of just one individual kicking things, even without being like an official leader.
Like Michael and Laura's family. They decided, right, let's cut down on plastic at home.
As a family project.
Yeah, the whole family got involved, taking reusable bags to the farmer's market, using beeswax wraps instead of cling film. Even their kids, Emma and Sam, they were part of it.
And getting the kids involved is so key, isn't it? Instilling those habits, those values early on. Michael and Laura aren't just reducing their own impact now.
They're raising aware kids.
Exactly. They're fostering that lifelong commitment in their children.
And Michael didn't just keep it at home either. He took that commitment to reduce paper waste into his office.
Extending it.
Yeah, encouraged colleagues, print less, use reusable coffee cups, shows how these values can ripple outwards into work life too.
And that initiative at work, it shows the potential for just one person advocating for change to actually influence how a whole organization operates. Yeah. Make it more sustainable for everyone there.
Laura also turned saving electricity into a kind of family game.
Making it fun.
Yeah. Getting Emma and Sam involved in remembering to switch off lights, unplug things not being used. Clever way to make eco habits engaging for kids, not a chore.
That gamification can be super effective for behavior change, can't it? Makes sustainable stuff more appealing, more memorable, especially for kids. Turns it into a team effort.
And the decision to walk or bike more instead of always jumping in the car.
Good for them, good for the air.
Exactly. Good for their health, less pollution in their town. And it became this regular family thing, more time together, plus being kinder to the planet.
That really highlights the co-benefits, doesn't it? Sustainable transport often improves health, air quality, and cuts carbon. Multiple wins.
Then their friend Thomas helped them set up a garden in the backyard.
Getting into gardening.
Yeah. And it wasn't just about fresh veggies, though. That's great. They started composting, too. Food scraps, leaves, turning waste into amazing soil for the garden.
Closing the loop. And composting is so important. It drastically cuts down organic waste going to landfill. Because in landfill, it breaks down and releases methane.
Nasty greenhouse gas.
Really potent one. So turning scraps into good soil instead, that's effective nutrient recycling.
We also heard about Sarah, the nurse. Really busy job, demanding schedule.
Yeah, time poor.
But she still managed to weave simple eco-habits into her day. Little things, reusable lunchbox, water bottle for work, always having reusable bags for shopping, donating stuff she didn't need.
Proves it's possible.
Yeah, it really proves that even if you're short on time, small, consistent actions are definitely doable.
Sarah's example is great for anyone feeling squeezed for time. It shows that being responsible doesn't mean huge gestures or completely changing your life.
Just mindful choices.
Just making mindful choices within the routines you already have.
The story of Green Hill Village really struck me too. It started with just one guy, Henry.
Yeah.
He just suggested a community cleanup for the local river. Simple idea.
But it took off.
It grew into this amazing collective effort. Cleaned up the river, sure, but it also built this real sense of community pride. Kids got involved. Henry even planted flowers along the bank afterwards. Just lovely.
That story really underlines the power of one voice, doesn't it? To spark community action. Henry's idea shows how looking after the environment can bring people together.
Unite them.
Yeah, for a common goal. Builds that sense of ownership over their shared space. And seeing the improvements, that probably inspired even more action.
And it didn't stop there in Green Hill. Susan, a teacher, she made sure to teach her students about nature's importance.
Education is vital.
And one student, Lucy, got so inspired she went and planted a mango tree. That simple act, planting a tree, becomes a symbol of hope, a tangible contribution.
Absolutely. The role of education in shaping those environmental values is huge.
Sure.
Susan connecting kids with nature, empowering them, like Lucy planting the tree. That's crucial for raising a generation that gets it, that values the environment.
And then, following Lucy's example, her parents, they owned the local bakery.
Oh, the bakery.
They decided to switch from plastic bags to paper ones because Lucy suggested it. And what was great was the customers actually liked the change.
People responded well.
Yeah. Shows businesses can make a difference too, and that customers often support greener choices.
And that highlights how it's all connected, right? Individual actions, business practices. Lucy influencing her parents' bakery shows even young voices can inspire change, especially if customers approve.
Then there's George, the retired mechanic in Green Hill. He just loves fixing things.
A repair guy.
Yeah, things others would just throw out. Instead of always buying new, he fixes stuff, like his neighbor Ben's broken radio.
Yeah.
Really emphasizing reuse over just consuming constantly.
George's dedication to repair, that's such a core principle of reducing waste, isn't it?
Yeah.
Extending the life of things we already have.
Saves resources.
Exactly. Less demand for new manufacturing, less resource extraction, less factory pollution.
Claire's decision to use public transport more, ditching the car sometimes, another great example. Loads of benefits.
Yeah.
Less air pollution, saves money on gas and upkeep, and she actually found it gave her time to relax, read on her commute.
Those often overlooked perks of public transport. Good for the planet, your wallet, and cuts down traffic jams.
And her water-saving habits at home, bucket in the shower to catch water, checking for leaks.
Smart little tricks.
They actually influenced her neighbor, John. He saw what she was doing, started doing similar things himself. Again, that ripple effect. Good habits spreading.
It reinforces that idea that sustainable practices can be kind of contagious. You see someone doing it, makes you think, oh, I could do that. Often starts with someone just showing it's possible and worthwhile.
Lisa and Andrew making their home more eco-friendly. Energy-saving bulbs, thicker curtains for insulation, washing clothes in cold water.
Practical home improvements.
Yeah, and it didn't just cut their environmental impact, it also led to noticeable savings on their bills each month. It's that recurring theme again, good for the planet often means good for your finances too.
Those dual benefits make these home improvements really appealing, don't they? And sustainable long-term. They're investments that pay off in multiple ways.
And Kevin, running the local fruit and veg shop, he found a really clever way to cut food waste.
Yeah, the imperfect produce.
Exactly. Selling slightly wonky-looking stuff at a lower price and donating any extra food to local charities.
Brilliant.
Such a practical solution. Helps the environment by cutting waste and helps the community by getting food to people who need it.
Kevin's initiative tackles that big issue of food waste right at the shop level. shows how businesses can find creative ways to minimize waste and also boost food security locally.
And honestly, the sources were just packed with examples like these. We heard about Daniel in Oakville switching to the train because of pollution concerns his daughter raised.
Kids influencing parents again.
Yeah, Olivia teaching her kids about plants and composting. Steve, the principal, starting a green team at school. Ethan convincing his dad to start recycling at the supermarket.
Spreading the message.
The Browns having a weekly Earth Hour at home. Emma at the library reusing old newspapers, starting a book swap. Richard and Linda in Riverdale starting a neighborhood cleanup that grew into the Clean Hands team, even got the mayor involved.
Wow, scaling up.
Angela, the teacher, inviting Richard to speak, leading to a clean school club. George and Margaret teaching their neighbor Lucy composting, Margaret saving water. Adam, the delivery worker, using a bike, pushing for bike lanes.
Advocacy, too.
Rachel stopping single-use plastic at home, inspiring Daniel, the shop owner. Robert, the park caretaker, using signs, planting flowers to encourage tidiness. Sophie, just 11, starting River Friends after seeing a bird tangled in plastic.
Amazing initiative.
Peter, the mechanic, disposing of oil properly. Clara at the bakery, donating bread, switching packaging. James, the science teacher, getting students into projects, forest trips. Susan, the clothes shop owner, collecting old clothes. William, the farmer, using natural methods, inspiring neighbors.
So many different roles.
Henry, the librarian, starting a book swap. Nature reading club. Kevin, Mark, Jason, and Ella starting a walking club. George, the bus driver, encouraging kids to keep the bus clean. Hannah at the post office, encouraging box reuse. Samuel fixing old bikes at school. Edward at the hardware store, promoting eco products.
It's everywhere.
Emily, the gardener, pushing composting, planting bee-friendly flowers. Thomas, the delivery man, reusing packaging, switching to paper tape. Susan at another bakery, asking if people really need a bag. Henry, the farmer, selling wonky veg cheap, sharing seeds. Claire and David eco-proofing their home leaks, rain barrel gardening, line drying. Andrew at the libraries, read and reuse. William, the 10-year-old, putting up signs to protect park animals, organizing cleanups. Sarah, the nurse, pushing for proper medical waste disposal. Rachel, the bus driver, with the trash box on board. George making paper bags from old newspapers with kids. Paul at the car repair reusing parts, planting flowers in old cans. Emily at the post office starting a reuse corner. Sarah's family composting. Tom, the delivery driver, separating waste in his truck. John and Mary organizing river cleanups, putting up signs. Lucy at another bakery encouraging cloth bags. Michael, the science teacher's Green Week. Anna and Mark's park cleanup group. Jack at the furniture factory saving energy, reusing packaging. David and Susan making bird feeders, cutting plastic. Robert volunteering at the recycling center. Sarah saving water everywhere. John and Mary cutting plastic. It's just this incredible web, isn't it?
It really is. What's truly remarkable about that huge list is just the sheer diversity, the range of actions, the range of people involved. It just hammers home that environmentalism isn't for one type of person or profession.
Anyone can do something.
Absolutely.
Right.
Every single person has the capacity to chip in their own way, within their own life and influence.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, the core message feels really clear, doesn't it?
Yeah, crystal clear.
It's the buildup, the accumulation of these consistent small actions taken by individuals, taken by communities. That's where the real power lies. Becoming well-informed through stories like these, it just shows that every single one of us can play a part without feeling like you have to carry the whole world on your shoulders.
Exactly. And it's so important to see that these individual efforts, they don't just happen in a vacuum. They create that powerful ripple effect we talked about.
Inspiring others.
Inspiring others, leading collectively to really significant, lasting, positive change.
So for you listening right now, thinking about all these stories, what small action really resonated? What's one thing, maybe just a tiny step, that you feel you could start doing, maybe even today?
And maybe that leads to a final thought for you to mull over. True environmentalism. Perhaps it isn't always about the grand headline-grabbing gesture.
The big campaigns. Right.
More often, maybe it's found in the quiet, cumulative impact of our conscious daily decisions. It's about recognizing the power we hold in our individual choices and embracing those simple, sustainable habits. Because when those habits are multiplied across countless people, communities, that's where the potential lies for truly widespread, lasting, positive change.